how to maximize your inheritance in a probate real estate sale. That's pretty important, right?
Absolutely.
We're going to talk about that next. Welcome back to the channel featuring the leading probate real estate team in the greater Sacramento region. I'm Brendan Mohr, Realtor and Certified Probate and Trust Specialist by the California Association of Realtors.
And I'm Bill Heyman. I'm a licensed California professional fiduciary. I'm also a registered and bonded California legal document assistant, specializing in uncontested probate work, as well as I'm a licensed California real estate broker.
Now, please like this video, subscribe right now. Want your probate done for no fee? Well, every day we help people save thousands of dollars and eliminate headaches with our cost savings probate administration service and real estate listing combo. So if it's in California and real estate needs to be sold, reach out to us. Our info is in the About section on this channel. We love your calls, texts, emails, and comments. Now let's get into it. All right, so it's how to maximize your inheritance in a probate real estate sale. In probate real estate, it can present its own unique challenges, and you really need to go with a great strategy. And some of the strategies you employ are something you would do in a regular real estate sale. But there's more strategies that you really have to in a probate real estate sale, especially because you're trying to get the most money for the estate and do everything in the best interest of the estate. Bill, why don't we start it off?
Sure.
Because one of the best ways to maximize the inheritance in a probate real estate sale is to start the process off.
Yes.
Now, we made a list of little notes, so we're going to be looking at some of those notes and going over it. But
Sure.
what do you think is a way to start it off?
I think probably the two most important things to start off is A, be sure you choose a realtor to help you sell that probate house. Choose one that has a ton of probate experience, very important. And the other thing is you need to choose the right probate professional to handle the probate end of things, be it a probate attorney or a probate service like we provide, or if you're going to attempt to do it yourself, that's another way you can do it. But you need to decide which probate professional you're going to use, and obviously you can save a lot of money by using something other than a probate attorney.
Yeah, and we have a lot of information on those types of options on our channel as well. Now, one thing you really need to do is don't delay.
Yeah,
you need to start quickly. And there's a lot of times people have these reasons to delay, but usually time is not on your side. There's all sorts of things. There's fees, penalties, there's cost and maintenance of the property.
Yeah.
There's just what's called the holding costs. You might have to be paying a mortgage. If you're not paying a mortgage, you're getting penalties for not paying the mortgage and risk foreclosure. There's also property tax implications.
Yes, big time.
Big time, because of the way the property taxes are actually reassessed after the date of death.
Yeah, that can be a biggie, a real biggie.
And really a number of other things. So start quickly.
Yeah, don't delay. It's very important that if the intent is to sell the probate home, you want to get on the probate right away so you can get that home sold, because the longer you delay, the more it's going to cost the estate and ultimately the heirs. It's going to cost them money.
We've seen delays cause over 6 figures in costs and deferred maintenance, penalties and fees and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
Start fast. What's maybe the next thing?
I would say the next thing, and this kind of has to do with holding costs. The longer you hold the probate property, the more you have to maintain it. You've got property maintenance and property cleanup. And unfortunately, most of the time when you have a probate home that's going to be sold, oftentimes the prior owner who passed away was likely elderly and didn't really maintain the property well, so that the property, when it's time to probate it, is in a state of disarray. And the longer you delay, the worse that landscaping gets, the worse the house, any deferred maintenance, it just gets worse. So again, it's a reason why you don't want to delay. You don't want to have all of that property, additional property cleanup and maintenance. It's going to occur. Delay.
Now, if you're watching this and you're like, oh, we don't have the money or time, we're not in the area to do any of this stuff, well, you really don't have to. But this is about maximizing the inheritance.
Correct.
So if you want to maximize that inheritance, doing things like cleaning up the property, repairing items, all the little things that a lot of home buyers would really care about, and talk to your realtor about what those things might be.
Yeah, and just to add one other quick little add-on to that, we have had experiences where if a property had just been cleaned out and a once-over on the landscaping in the front and back, it would have meant an additional $10,000 to $20,000 in sales price, and it wasn't much money to put out to just get that landscaping done and get the house cleared out. So it can make a huge difference in maximizing your inheritance.
I've seen mowing the lawn and clearing all the grass off the cracks of the driveway has done wonders. So it could be little things like that. It's not like you have to flip the house,
Right.
do that big renovation. But another great thing to help you with that, consider pre-sale inspections.
Yeah.
And a lot of people ask, who does inspections in a probate real estate sale? And a lot of times it is the buyer who does them. But what pre-sale inspections do is it tells you what is wrong with the property and what will likely come up in inspection.
Right.
And you're going to prevent renegotiations later on when somebody does those inspections and either cancels the escrow or wants a credit or repairs.
It's always better for the seller to know what the defects in the property are, so that if you didn't do any pre-sale inspections, the buyer goes out and does his inspections and hits you with all these surprises, and you're reeling because you're going, I didn't know this was wrong with the property or that. But if you do those pre-sale inspections, you're not going to have any surprises. You're going to know. You're going to know ahead of time, and that's a good thing. Knowledge is, as they say, knowledge is power.
Yeah, and if you do those pre-sale inspections and you do repairs that are recommended by your realtor, that's who I would ask about it, what repairs to do. That will help maximize the return to the estate. What's another one?
This is one that may or may not help, but in situations where it will help, it can make a huge difference, and that's staging the home. Sometimes staging a home can be of a real benefit, and it can often add a significant amount of money to the sales price and help you maximize your inheritance. And for those of you who don't know exactly what we mean by staging is basically setting up the home with furniture and items in the home to make it look appealing, to make it look warm, inviting. And that can often help to get maximize your sales price.
Yeah, I've actually seen really dated homes professionally staged, and it ends up getting a lot of activity and selling for top dollar.
Yeah.
So that is something to consider. And you don't have to have a professional stager. You can self-stage using what is there in the home. You can do light staging, being artwork on the walls and things like vases and flowers, or professional stager. Now, professional staging is not cheap.
Right.
It can be a few $1,000s, and they usually keep the items there for a matter of 2 months or so for that fee. But it can help. Yeah. Selling a house is what you're really looking for, is creating a positive emotional response. Yeah. And that's what staging does.
It does, yeah. And then why don't you go on to our next item on the list, Brendan?
A huge one, and it's actually the main reason why a lot of homes sit on the market for a long time or sell quickly. And it's funny, a lot of home sellers or buyers wonder, why isn't it selling? Is it not being marketed appropriately? Mm-hmm. And it almost always comes back to overpricing. If you overprice a home, people often don't even want to look at it. Yeah. It's just you might think that they can offer lower. If it's not priced appropriately, they just won't want to look at it. So appropriate pricing. Talk to your realtor, your professional realtor. Your realtor will look at comparables, and sometimes price a little bit under the market. It helps obtain lots of buyers. We've seen that.
Yeah.
How many times have we seen that?
A lot. But yeah, and the other thing too to remember with pricing is when you do get offers that come in, sure, you want to look at every offer, and oftentimes you'll get the highest price offer and you'll think, let's take that one. And that may be the one to take, but there can be other factors in the purchase contracts that you really want to pay attention to, because not always the highest offer may be the best. And again, an experienced realtor, especially in probate, can really help you with that, to make sure that when you choose an offer, you're choosing the one that is the best for the estate in terms of maximizing your inheritance, and also one that is most likely not to fall out of escrow.
Yeah, that could be lots of things, like what kind of contingencies they have or what kind of financing. A lot of times people say to me, oh, I'm hoping for a cash buyer. The thing about cash buyers is they tend to put in lower offers, but there's no financing involved. And that's a more guaranteed close.
Yep, absolutely.
Addressing legal and title issues. Now, this is a big one, right, Bill? What are some issues that you can think of here?
One in particular that we've run into relatively often. A lot of the probate homes, the property owners who passed away, they've owned the homes for many years, 30 years, 40 years, even 50 years. And what happens is sometimes when a loan is paid off, typically anytime a loan's paid off, what's called a deed of reconveyance is issued, and it's recorded with the recorder. And that gives constructive notice to the world that a pre-existing mortgage has been paid off. But a lot of times we will have what we call mystery mortgages. And those are mortgages that, yes, they were paid off, but because it was so long ago, there was never a deed of reconveyance recorded. And then what happens is your realtor, combined with an excellent title officer, has to try to track down the path that loan followed through its lifetime and try to find someone who can issue a deed of reconveyance to clear it. And if you can't, then you're going to have to get a special bond issued, which costs money, costs the estate money, and it's a little bit of a hassle, but that's the only way you can get out of it if you can't get that deed of reconveyance issued.
And that's just one example, and that doesn't necessarily apply to your situation, right, but it very well could be. We see it actually pretty frequently in probate, so I don't want you to get scared about it, but if you ever do see that, we do have a video about what to do when you have a missing reconveyance deed. And if you ever want to interview a realtor for a probate real estate sale, make sure to mention, what do you know about missing reconveyance deeds? And if they have no idea, I bet you they've never done a probate, or very few. It is a complex situation. And the reason why you want to get on that very quickly is that what you're up against and the timing, and that way you don't delay an escrow. When you accept an offer, that's when escrow opens. And a lot of the times, a buyer will have a loan and they have to lock their interest rate, and they can only lock it over a certain period of time. And that's by rules and regulations of lending. And to extend their rate lock, they have to pay a lot for it. And they may not want to if the escrow period drags on. And things that can make an escrow period drag on end up costing the buyer a lot of money. A missing reconveyance deed, if it's not discovered early, preferably before escrow even opens, then that could cause that buyer to cancel.
Yeah, you can lose your buyer.
Yeah, and it might be your best offer. And now you got to go out and find a new buyer, maybe your second best one. But there's other things on there too. There could be IRS tax liens. There could be all sorts of liens that really need to be taken care of.
Addressed, absolutely.
What would you say is another one?
I would say probably trying to make sure that the showing schedule for the probate home is flexible. And that can be very tricky, especially if you've got an heir or a tenant living in the property. It can oftentimes be very difficult to get that heir or tenant to cooperate in showings. And that can be a big challenge. That can be a very big challenge. So you want to make sure, what you really want to try to do, it's best if you can have the probate home vacant. Have it, no tenants, no heirs living there. But if you do have to have an heir or tenant living in there, you want to make sure that they're going to fully cooperate in allowing showings in a reasonable manner.
A flexible showing schedule is a big deal, and the reason for that is we live in an on-demand society. You might be surprised how often an agent will call me and say, hey, can we see the home in an hour from now? That's very common. 24-hour notice is actually something I don't get as often as same-day notice. So flexible showing schedule is huge. You're trying to get the most eyeballs in the house, more people walking through, more offers, and that's going to help maximize your inheritance.
Absolutely.
Another one, I love the one about being vacant would be best. It makes it very easy. An agent doesn't have to make an appointment most of the time. Communicating with your realtor and the professional handling your probate is huge. If we do need to make appointments, for example, for an agent to show the home to a potential buyer, we need to be able to get a hold of you. We need to be able to get you to sign paperwork. And there's issues sometimes just with the professional handling the probate, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Because in a probate sale, you have basically dual paths of paperwork going at the same time. You have your regular real estate paperwork, which also includes some additional items for the probate. And then you've got your probate paperwork. And there are these basically two separate paperwork paths that have to merge at the end so that you can close escrow. So communication is key, because both on the real estate end and on the probate end, there's going to be paperwork that needs to be signed. And a lot of times you need to sign now. Can't wait.
Oh yeah. Would you like to go for this? We have one last one here.
I think so, yeah. That's just making sure that all of the family members, the heirs, are on board with the sale of the probate home. Because what can happen sometimes, and we talk about this in other videos, when you're doing a probate, you basically have, again, two routes that you can take to sell a house. You can sell it under what's called full authority with the probate, or limited authority. Most of the time it's full authority. But if the family and the heirs are not totally on board, and one of them decides to object to the sale, it throws basically a wrench in the system and stops the wheels from turning in their tracks. And then you have to go on to court and do what's called a court confirmation hearing in order to get the sale done. It's a lot longer, it causes delays, you may lose your buyer.
It's also more costly.
It is more costly to the estate.
Yeah,
Yes,
and unfortunately, the outcome can often be the estate actually loses money on it.
Yep.
And it can be resolved just through communication
Yes.
with each other.
Yes.
And a lot of times I find, because we actually get a lot of questions on our channel about objecting, if they should object or not. We can't answer those questions. That's legal advice, and we don't actually help people object. That's not our job. We're on the opposite side of that.
Yeah.
But what they often are objecting about is simply because they don't understand the real estate process. Sometimes people will say things to me like, oh, it was only on the market for 7 days and they accepted an offer. Well, the first week of a home being on the market is the single most important week. The single most, that is actually your window of opportunity where you're most likely to actually get the highest offer.
Yes.
So just because an offer was accepted within the first week doesn't mean there was any sort of shady dealings. It was probably the single best offer you're going to get. But there may be reasons for you to object, but it's better to communicate with your family to make sure everybody's on board before you go down a road that could actually be costly.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I have had an example. We've had in the past a few situations where an heir did object to the sale, and it was really because there was, as Brendan was saying, there was no communication or a lack of communication amongst the family. So we would jump in and just communicate, and eventually we were able to get that heir to withdraw his or her objection and then proceed with the sale. So it is possible to get an heir to withdraw, but again, it takes good communication. So that is very important.
So those are all great ways to maximize a real estate sale. Let's just go through those real quick. Just start the process right.
Yep.
Start quickly. Hire the right team, your realtor, your probate professional.
Absolutely.
Maybe do some property cleanup.
Yep.
Maybe some pre-sale inspections and repairs.
Yes.
Home staging.
Think about it.
Yeah.
You may or may not want to do that. And of course, appropriate pricing. You want to make sure you price that home appropriately. Very important. And then again, you want to address any legal and title issues. Make sure that your realtor goes over that preliminary title report and covers all bases there.
Yep, a flexible showing schedule. Vacant would be best.
Communication, again, with your realtor and probate professional. Make sure that communication is well established and keep it going. Very important.
And make sure the family's on board. I think that's all great information, Bill. Thank you so much for watching. Now, you want to watch this next video because I think that you want to find out how much does probate cost in California. It's just simply called, How Much Does Probate Cost in California? You're right over Bill's face, I think, right about now.